There's a very simple yet incredibly effective mod for Skyrim VR called Dragonborn Speaks Naturally, which uses the headset's onboard microphone to allow the player to vocalize their dialogue choices instead of selecting them manually. This Skyrim mod feels like a very interesting forebearer of how interactions with the virtual beings that occupy our game worlds is beginning to evolve. And now, with the groundbreaking advancements being made in artificial intelligence systems, that evolution process is about to take a very significant leap.
I have to go to work. I'm already late and my boss will punish me if I show up even later. Please leave. I can't help you right now.
Okay, that might have seemed underwhelming without context, so I'll let you in on a secret. That NPC's dialogue was completely generated by AI. There was no voice actor reading from a script, there's just a rather aggressive text-to-speech program performing dialogue written on the spot by OpenAI's GPT-3, a language prediction AI that uses deep learning techniques to produce human-like text. This is the work of Lee Vermeulen, a game developer in Toronto who's implemented OpenAI's latest GPT-3 AI into Modbox, a VR game creation tool developed by Lee's studio, Alien Trap Games. While this interaction is admittedly rather primitive, it's a fascinating showcase of how AI is set to make our game worlds more immersive than ever.
There's a lot of things that are still, we still need to work on, but the idea that we can have these characters easily scripted that can that know about the game world that the player can then interact with is amazing. It opens up a lot of opportunities to create procedurally generated content with a lot of procedurally generated characters. Yeah, just talk to AI naturally.
AI that is capable of creating language isn't necessarily new. AIs like Cleverbot have been able to do that since the 90s. But what distinguishes GPT-3 is its ability to learn how to create specific language based on the information it's given.
Well, really what GPT-3 does is it completes text. You give it text, then it completes it. They're based on a lot of sources that it read. So it scans all Wikipedia and a massive amount of sources to say, what's the most likely outcome that this text will finish? So just with that idea of completing text that you give it, there's a lot of possibilities there. So if I give it the first few dialogues of an NPC script of a guy in Skyrim, it then completes it based on a lot of text that's read, and it completes it in a way that makes sense. How much it makes sense is amazing, that it can just figure it out from the start and complete it naturally. Because of that, we can add characters to the game and then start the dialogue for them and have it finish the dialogue. It's so much better than Cleverbot or anything else in the past because we can actually have a sense of the world around it and the game state, and I can give different personalities, different AI characters.
In this case, the initial text that GPT-3 is given comes in the form of a very basic prompt to inform the AI who this character is. For example, Bobby is simply described as being late for his job at City Hall.
I work at City Hall. It's a government building in the center of town. It's a huge and beautiful building. You can't miss it.
From that very simple description, the AI creates the personality and dialogue that fits that description, which is why the character sounds a bit stressed and angry. And because of GPT-3's ability to pull relevant data from the internet as well as the world it inhabits, the player is able to have an authentic, free-flowing, natural conversation with them, not limited by a dialogue choice system.
You're smart. I like that about you. City Hall is located on City Hall Street location.
Really, the biggest thing that's holding this technology back from true innovation is the limitations of text-to-speech software, as you can probably tell from the rather basic and incredibly aggressive one that Lee's using. But even that's a technology that's evolving every day. As games continue to create endearing characters that often stay with us for years after we put the controller down, the demand for the ability to interact with them grows. RPGs can sometimes live or die by the depth of their dialogue systems, and romances are steadily becoming a fan favourite feature that is sorely missed when not present. Obviously, not every developer has the time and budget to write and develop such complex systems, but GPT-3's ease of use means that we could start seeing them become much more commonplace.
I'm also excited for it because it means that crafting these AIs these AI characters is incredibly easy. Like anyone could do it. You don't need to like have some advanced interface where you're selecting what knowledge the AI has and trying to craft it in some way. You're just typing out how you want the AI to act and what they know, which anyone can do, and then it completes after that.
So what does this mean for the future of virtual characters and immersion within video games? Well, I don't know if I believe that AI will totally be replacing the subtle intricacies of the written word or the emotional depth of a human performance anytime soon, but it will be used to complement them. Obviously, everything happening in this Modbox demo is rather basic experimentation, but it's very easy to imagine where this tech could go given the time and resources to develop. Developers like Bethesda, BioWare, and Rockstar set the bar when it comes to dynamic NPC interaction. From Mass Effect's many branching dialogue trees to Red Dead Redemption 2's adaptive antagonizing system.
So, you heard anything about any, bounty hunters in these parts?
I couldn't say.
Well, thanks for nothing, idiot.
Well, GPT-3 could see those becoming infinitely extensive.
So like in a Skyrim sort of $100 million budget game, it might be the case that that the writers craft like a giant novels worth of information about the backstory of the world, feed that to all the AI characters, the general language model, and then each of these giant AAA productions has their own trained AI based on their world lore, and then you can literally walk up and talk to any of the NPCs and they would know that world lore and you can ask them questions about that.
Instead of fiddling with maps, players could get directions from passing travelers. Interrogating suspects is no longer limited by the amount of pre-scripted questions that a writer can provide. Players can talk to a shopkeeper directly to make transactions, instead of sifting through menus, even actually barter with them through the power of words rather than a statistics dice roll. This makes the possibilities for virtual conversation infinite, limited not by what writers have the time to plan for, but rather by what the player can think to ask. I'm getting ahead of myself here, obviously, these possibilities are years away, but it's still interesting to think about how this tech could grow. Look at how far procedural world generation has come in recent years. In 2009, Minecraft blew us away by generating an entire world, and then just 7 years later, in 2016, No Man's Sky gave us an entirely procedurally generated universe with different planets, systems, and even life forms. Developer Bram Adams has already implemented this AI into Skyrim via modding, allowing bar patrons to create their own dialogue.
Sigh no, you wouldn't be able to. I'm just waiting for somebody.
Tech moves fast. But for now, take solace in hearing that Skyrim guard tell you for the 500th time the story about the time he got an arrow in the knee. Because it might be one of the last examples of a random, scripted NPC line that everyone who plays will hear.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.